Hello, welcome to the Daily Bible Podcast. My name is William Hemsworth. Thank you so much for joining me for today's show. Well, today we continue on in Matthew chapter 16, and we're going to look at verses 8 through 12. And this concludes the discussion between Jesus and the disciples in what's called the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. So as we saw in verses 5 through 7, Jesus is telling the disciples, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. And the disciples kind of naively ask Jesus, is this because, they talk about among themselves, is this because we didn't bring any bread with us? And this is Jesus' reprimand to that question, and it's well deserved. So again, Matthew chapter 16, verses 8 through 12 say, But Jesus, aware of this, said, O men of little faith, why do you discuss among yourselves the fact that you have no bread? Do you not yet perceive? Do you not remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000, and how many baskets you gathered? Or the 7 loaves of the 4,000, and how many baskets you gathered? How is it that you fail to perceive that I did not speak about bread? Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Then they understood that he did not tell them to beware of the leaven of bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. So this is a pretty strong reprimand by Jesus to the disciples. He's saying, look, were you not there with the feeding of the 5,000 and how many baskets there were left over from 5 loaves and 2 fish? Were you not there for the feeding of the 4,000, which by the way just happened a chapter earlier, and the feeding of the 4,000 with 7 loaves? Which also shows that those are 2 totally separate events. So Jesus is saying beware of the leaven, just like I said yesterday, to beware of the teaching that the Pharisees were doing. Okay, this is a negative symbol of their teaching, because the Pharisees and the Sadducees, by their lack of compassion, their lack of mercy, living the word of the law instead of the spirit of the law, were preventing others from entering the kingdom. And so this warning, this rebuke, also serves to prepare the disciples for what's coming next in this chapter, in Matthew chapter 16, which ensures the transmission of proper doctrine through Peter. And we're going to see that in the next few verses. Now, this bad leaven doesn't only apply to the Pharisees and Sadducees. It applies to us as well. Sometimes we may think, I'm going to do this little thing over here. It's not going to hurt anyone. It's eventually going to catch up to us in some way. Reputations can be harmed. And sometimes from that we can't go back. Whenever you see a Christian who may be prominent fall from grace, if you will, there's some scandal uncovered 20, 30 years ago, it sends a shockwave, not only through those who follow because they wonder if the faith is true or not, some of them anyway. A little bit of compromise can sooner or later affect the whole. So it's another thing Jesus is mentioning too. So thank you for joining me on this episode of the Daily Bible Podcast, and we continue tomorrow in Matthew chapter 16. Have a great day. God bless you.